Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We are your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan. We've come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows, to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which ones should just stay doomed. This is a podcast in which we will analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season or only one episode. With me as always is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Dick Tracy, he's a good cop.
Yes, we are doing Dick Tracy today.
Yes, he's a good cop.
The 1967 pilot.
Yes. Now, before we go into this, I was wondering if we could take a quick detour into the Stay Doomed mailbag. Mail! Now that we have the Discord and people can kind of talk to us a little bit easier, and we've been getting some feedback, and we had a very interesting message recently, and I just wanted to bring it up here because it was something I had not realized.
Okay.
Just the Danish Guy Reviews sent us a message about Fish Police. And during Fish Police, I complained that there's a scene where there are Jewish fish, and then we never see them again, and then they go away, and I was like, that's weird. What's the joke here? Just racism? They were gefilte fish.
Ah.
And that was the joke. And like all good jokes, it had to be explained.
Fish police. They were just carps.
You know, I also had that thought. I was like, it's weird that we decided to do Dick Tracy so close to Fish Police, because it's another, like, cop procedural.
I mean, I don't think we really gave it that level of thought.
No, we
Dick
didn't.
Tracy.
No, we didn't. But let's talk about Dick Tracy. He is a good cop.
We keep saying that. We do have a cold open scene before.
Yes.
But Noah really wanted to get into the theme song because it's his favorite thing.
So we see various members of NATO being captured.
Yes.
And they're all, like, cartoon kidnapped.
Yeah, like, one ambassador is accosted by a flower girl who, like, blow darts him.
Yes.
And when I say a flower girl, I don't mean, like, a wedding. I mean, like, an Eliza Doolittle flower seller.
Yes, Eris from Final Fantasy VII.
Yes, the two ways of describing flower sellers.
And
a
then,
third man is hit in a tripwire and beaten by, like...
That's what I want to talk about. The first one gets hit in the neck with a dart, and it's like, oh no. The other one, they, like, shoot a flame at him, and he gets, like, startled.
And he gets dragged down a manhole.
And then they drag him down a manhole. The third one, they use a tripwire, and then they just beat the hell out of him with sticks. And I was just like, oh, this is funny. Bludgeoned. He's just getting bludgeoned to death.
Yes.
And then I think they throw him in an ice cream truck or something disguised as an ice cream truck.
Yes. And
I was like, well, that was some mood whiplash.
Mood whiplash is the name of the game.
Yeah.
This is more cartoony than you would expect from a show now, but less cartoony than things it is similar to.
Yes, it is less cartoony than, say, Super Pup.
Or what I was going to say is, let's get this started. It's less cartoony, but only slightly, than 1966's Batman.
Yes.
Or Get Smart. Which are the two shows this is very reminiscent
This is desperately trying to be Batman. Like, the theme song, which, how does that go again? Do you remember?
Dick Tracy, he's a good cop.
Dick Tracy, he's a good cop.
Dick Tracy, he's a good cop.
But it's actually like a cartoon, like the Batman of the 60s.
I actually have the opening credits are pretty well done, but the theme song blows.
Well, tells you all the needed information. His name's Dick Tracy. He's a good cop.
We also see that in the opening credits, we see Tess Trueheart, who is canonically Dick Tracy's girlfriend, then wife.
Yes.
She is billed as Tess Trueheart Tracy. So they are married. And also Junior and Bonnie Braids.
Yes.
We do not meet Bonnie Braids.
Yes, Bonnie
Or
Braids
Tess.
and Tess miss not appearing in this film.
Did you recognize Bonnie Braids?
No, because she didn't appear in the film.
Bonnie Braids is Jan Brady from the Brady Bunch.
Oh, really?
Edith Plum, yes.
Oh.
I recognized the name immediately and went, was that Jan or Martha? Or Marcia? And then I had to immediately look it up. It's Jan.
Wow, okay, that's interesting.
So there is an alternate timeline where she does not play Jan Brady if this show gets picked up.
Tracy. That's all I know about the Brady Bunch, is that she says Marcia.
Really? You didn't watch the Brady Bunch as a kid?
The dog's name is Tiger. The monkeys show up. Jan makes out with a boy and gets the mumps.
Iconic opening sequence.
Yes.
Iconic house.
Yes, the older brother and the oldest sister are banging in the movie.
I believe they may have also had a relationship in real life.
Oh, really?
Yes. I believe they may have. I'm not sure now.
Showmance.
I would like to file a complaint that there is a listicle of the 10 hottest on and off screen Brady Bunch hookups, and I don't like that that's a listicle. But yes, Greg and Marcia did date in real life.
Where's Mrs. Brady and Frank the Mailman?
I am not clicking that link.
Okay.
I don't want the internet to think that's what I want to see.
So, we get the name of this episode, which is
The Plot to Kill NATO.
To Kill NATO. And we are introduced to the villain of this episode.
Mr. Memory.
Mr. Memory. And Mr. Memory, because he's so evil, is feeding his piranhas.
He likes them because they destroy quickly without guile or subterfuge.
Yes, but because this is a pilot and they don't have a lot of money, it's not like a pool of piranha.
It is a tank.
It's a tiny fish tank.
You have perhaps won these piranhas at the state fair.
Yes. And his assistant, Mr. Memory's assistant, has a hook for a hand.
Because that's what henchmen do.
And says something like,
I always keep my hand 6 inches above the water when feeding the piranha. If only you had.
implying that he lost his hand to the piranhas. The piranhas are going to be important later.
Kinda. So, we also see Dick Tracy at home with Junior. We established that Junior is adopted, but Bonnie Braids is not, which is canon to Dick Tracy comics.
Yes.
Junior is always a Dick Grayson-esque ward.
Yes.
And Junior calls his quote-quote dad by his full name, by his name. Much like... I always found it interesting that Dick Grayson in... Doesn't he call Bruce Mr. Wayne in the Adam West Batman?
He might.
I think he calls him Mr. Wayne, which is an odd thing of like...
But
Next note. Oh, this is definitely an attempt to capitalize on the success of Batman.
Oh, yeah, there's a point, like...
We're not even 5 minutes into the show and I've written this note down.
The kid is, like gets a phone call. He's like, oh, I gotta tell Dick this. And then, punches in a code and then goes into a lair.
Yes.
He's a cop. But he has a lair. Like a secret lair. Cops shouldn't have lairs. There is then legitimately, a Batman-style transition.
Yes.
You know how in the 60s Batman, the bat symbol would, zoom into the frame and then zoom out? Yeah, something along those lines takes place. The only thing separating this from Batman is when we saw Mr. Memory, the lair wasn't crooked. That's the only thing that's different in terms of, pacing and style to Batman. It should also be noted that Mr. Memory, he's the one who has kidnapped these NATO representatives.
Yes.
Uses some machine to find out that Dick Tracy's on the case.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this is like a Professor X Cerebro situation where he's reading minds, or if it's just like, this is making me so smart I see the most obvious outcome, which is, they would assign the best cop to the case.
He gets in store brand Cerebro.
Yeah. and he's just like, where's this machine? He's got like weird things on his temple that lets him plug in like it's the Matrix. And then he's just like,
Dick Tracy. Of course. He was responsible for the elimination of the brow, flat top, mumbles.
And all the actual members of the Rogue Gallery that you might have been excited to see in this show, who will not be appearing.
And just so you know, Tess and Bonnie Braids will not be coming home until tomorrow, so don't think you're going to see them either. They are cast, but we do not see Tess or Bonnie.
It's so weird. In any case, it's time for Dick Tracy to be on the case.
Yes.
He does some police work. They find a van.
Yes.
That was used in the kidnapping. And this leads him to interview this, like, shady doctor.
Yes.
And Dick Tracy's just, like, asking him questions, and the doctor's just going to be like, of course, I will gladly help with your investigation. And then Dick Tracy drops, I believe, his cigarette case.
Yes.
Because it's the 60s.
Because it was the 60s.
And the doctor picks it up and hands it to Dick Tracy, and in doing that, realizes the mistake he's made. Because Dick Tracy now has clean fingerprints for the doctor.
Yes.
And they kind of, like, share a glance, and in a panic, this doctor calls Mr. Memory.
Yes.
And is like, Mr. Memory, I screwed up. He dropped his cigarette case, and now he has my fingerprints. Letting us know, as the audience, what just happened.
Especially because the audience for this might skew a little bit young to immediately figure that out.
Yeah. So he explains kind of the chess matches going on. Mr. Memory's like, put my henchman on. He puts the henchman on, and the henchman just kind of gives the doctor like a look, and it's like, understood. We then hard cut to Dick Tracy talking to his police chief, and they get a call that the doctor's been killed.
Yes.
I love all of this. Like, it's actual, like, interesting police work. It's not, like, superhero police work.
Yeah, it's just police work.
It's a thing that they actually did on Mythbusters to get someone's fingerprints. Was something like kind of similar. So like all of this, I'm like, this is good storytelling and interesting and exciting. It's a bit of a tell that he died mysteriously, that maybe Dick Tracy was on the case.
Yeah. Like,
could you imagine if, like, that wasn't his plan? He just happened to have dropped his cigarette case.
Yeah. You were mentioning it reminded you of something.
Yes, it's this interesting, like, to kind of update this. It reminded me of a scene from 24.
Okay.
There's an episode of 24 where Jack Bauer is, like, tailing somebody who's, like, a terrorist. And it's very important that the terrorist arrive somewhere so that they, like, know the location of something. But then some cop just happens to pull him over for something else. And the cop's going to bring him in, and then, like, they call him on his radio, like, yo, you have to let this guy go. This is part of a much bigger investigation. You have to let him go. And the cop's like, all right, whatever. He's like, oh, you're free to go.
Bye.
And as the terrorist is driving away, he calls his boss and is like, hey, I just got pulled over. They were going to take me in. He got a call on his radio and suddenly left me go. And the boss just goes, it was an honor working with you. And he says, it was an honor working with you. And he crashes the truck and kills himself.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like this very high level of chess playing of like, I'm making this big move, but now I've let you in on what the move was. So now you're countering the move. I know it's odd to compare Dick Tracy to Jack Bauer, but that's where my head was at.
Jack Bauer, he's a good cop.
Is he?
Unless you ask Freddie Prinze Jr.
Unless you ask anyone who knows him, because they all end up dead or tortured or both.
Oh, Freddie Prinze Jr. just doesn't like Kiefer Sutherland.
Oh, really?
That's the joke. They worked together on 24, and Freddie Prinze Jr. was like, never again.
He's a nutcase. He won't shut up about his band. In any case.
So Dick Tracy is given a telegram with where to go to come alone and armed to the Seawolf Hotel. And
Yes.
comes up with like a backup plan for when the other cops can like come be the cavalry.
Yes, it should be noted that he's being invited by Mr. Memory.
Yes.
And the police chief says something like,
Mr. Memory.
Mr. Memory.
Ring any bells?
which I was like, is this a joke? That his name's Mr. Memory and you're saying ring any bells? Isn't it like, okay, whatever. So he goes, because he's a good cop, he goes to this weird hotel alone, unarmed, with no real plan other than to trust random note. And he ends up locked in his hotel room and it starts being filled with gas.
What?
He comes up with an idea to blow up the door. He creates like a bomb.
Yes.
Few things about this. This is another time where they're showing that Dick Tracy is a chemist.
Yeah.
Because he does like, when he's in his lair, he's doing like something with like test tubes and stuff. And then he MacGyver's a bomb. Unlike MacGyver though, there's no explanation of like, oh, look, there's sulfuric acid here, and then this is here. I can use like it's not like he takes like hairspray and a lighter.
No.
And when it's like, yeah. I mean, I understand that this is for kids and maybe you don't explain how to make explosives to kids.
Yeah, you might not want to have like, I believe the term is imitable acts.
Yes. But I thought it was a little weird where he was just like, oh, I can make a bomb basically out of nothing.
Yeah.
Mr. Memory is somehow watching this. And also, the police chief is just outside like, well, we haven't heard from Tracy.
He said to give him 10 minutes.
Let's give him a few more minutes.
Well, they said, like, give him 10 minutes, and so it's kind of the, like, he said 10 minutes, so give him the 10 minutes he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then, store brand Odd Job comes in.
Yes, Hook breaks down, the guy with the hook for a hand, breaks in, just punches a door.
Diet Odd Job, now with more hook hand, is what my notes.
More hook hand.
And they have a clumsy fight.
They have this, like, real clumsy fight. It's supposed to be an action sequence.
It's not great.
I understand now why Batman put POW on screen. It was to hide how bad this fight is.
Yeah.
They throw Hook on the bed, the hook-handed man on the bed, and he falls on his hook and just goes, ugh, and dies.
Like, instantly.
And the police chief bursts in and is like,
He's dead. Fell on his hook.
Yeah, like, it sounds like Noah is doing a bit to underplay it, but that's really... It really is. He comes in like, oh. Anyway.
It's hilarious. I loved everything about this fight scene. It's so dumb. And on his person, they find some, like, clues.
Yes.
But they're, like, very small. So they don't know exactly what these clues are. So we got to find a way to really dissect these tiny little fibers that they find.
Yes.
And Dick Tracy's like, oh,
I'm a science.
I'm a science this. I have the perfect thing for this. He puts an eyedropper in his eye. Mm-hmm. And he's like, this is a special formula that I made that will magnify anything I see 5 times more than a microscope. So he's just naturally just improved his eyesight intensely.
Yeah.
And then he looks at these little fibers. He's like, oh, this is like videotape.
Yeah.
This gives me like an idea of where we should look.
Yeah, because it's the radio tape.
It's the radio tape, yes.
Because that's going to become the thing.
And then they do kind of like a bit where he's like, now those eye drops will wear off in about an hour, which is good because you look like freaks to me. And they show the police chief, and he's like all stretched out because his eye is all weird and magnetic.
And he looks like a Dick Tracy villain.
Yeah. This is once again the idea that Dick Tracy's thing's gonna be chemistry.
Yes.
He's gonna make weird potions and chemicals and things like that. So that's another way that we're going to make him different from Batman, who has a gadget for everything.
Or Get Smart, which also is gadget.
Yeah, it was all gadgets. Dick Tracy's gonna be all chemistry, which I kind of dig. I think that's an interesting way to go about it.
Okay.
I think it gives him a unique personality, and like you could probably sell Dick Tracy chem kits to like kids.
Yeah, little chemistry sets.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting choice going forward. I'm going to say more about it at the end, but I really want to establish this.
Okay. We get like a little interstitial with Memory apologizing to the NATO people.
Yes.
Where he's like, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry, but I'm also so evil. I hadn't been on screen in a while. Just to remind you, I kidnapped these people, and that's the plot.
We also get to know Liz a little better.
Yes.
Liz is great, and we have no choice but to stan.
Yes, I like Liz.
She is the Agent 99 to
Yes.
Dick Tracy's Maxwell Smart. She is the hyper-competent brunette female sidekick.
Yes. To go along with his child sidekick.
Yes.
We get like a fun car chase.
Yes.
With like lots of gunfire.
Yeah, which is a lot for like a entertainment show in the 60s that was probably more of an all-ages John.
But I mean, like, this is also the age where, like, we were selling guns to kids as toys.
Yeah.
Here, buddy, it's all yours.
Wow, look at that. Hey, what about me?
Try this one, partner. Looks like real. Sounds like real.
They sure do.
The Sound of Power military rifle and Western rifle.
Like, we were selling that to children.
Yeah, we were not at that time putting the little orange caps on everything.
Yes. After the car chase, this is one of my favorite bits of dialogue. The police chief comes up to Dick Tracy and goes,
That fellow with the hook. He's on the wanted list. He's an escapee from a psychopathic ward.
This thing is beginning to figure.
"What is, Dick? What exactly is starting to figure right now? You were surprised by the fact that the man with the hook for a hand that tried to kill you was a criminal?
What?
You're like, oh, he was a criminal. I think he might have been evil. This is all starting to figure.
He only tried to murder me and all my friends."
After I was trapped in a gas trap, like Jigsaw. He wouldn't have gotten that reference, but still. So the only plan that they have is for Dick Tracy to wear a disguise?
Yeah, he's disguised as Liz's driver.
Yes.
Like, Liz is intending to come calling to Mr. Memory.
Yes.
But she is in disguise, and her driver is Dick Tracy. So she and Tracy are in the car for 0.2 seconds. And then I have, what if Get Smart was less fun and kind of lame? They come in guns blazing, arrest some henchies, free some diplomats.
Yes.
And Liz tries to stay with Dick and help out, but Tracy dismisses her and says, like, get the diplomats out to the chief.
Yes.
You know, free the hostages. Liz, don't try to be a hero. And she does.
But that leaves Dick alone. And they're starting to get suspicious. They're like, I thought the car left. And he's like, oh, no, I just moved it to the garage. Hey, wait a minute. You're Dick Tracy, aren't you?
Ah!
So they capture Dick Tracy. And Mr. Memory's like,
Well, Mr. Tracy, we meet at last. My congratulations, you were a formidable adversary. And I wonder indeed who is the victor. You have cost me millions, and I will have cost you your life.
Ah.
I just have to figure out the best way to kill you. And he's like, I gotta go to Cerebro. And he puts Cerebro on, and he's like, thinks for a moment, and he's like, oh, I have the perfect idea. The piranhas we set up earlier. It's like, you couldn't come up with that on your own? Why did you have the piranhas in the first place if you weren't planning for this exact scenario? So they take Dick to the tank of piranhas.
Yep.
And I know I said I really liked the previous exchange. This is my favorite line in the whole show.
Okay.
He's leading Dick towards this tank of piranha, and he says to him, my friend Hook lost his hand to that piranha, and you will lose too.
My friend Hook lost one of his hands by accident. You're going to lose both of yours by design.
Which means his henchman's name was Hook before he lost a hand. Why was his name Hook then?
I mean,
I was like, oh, I guess you got a hook for a hand now. That nickname makes a lot more sense now.
I feel like that's a very, Dick Tracy thing. I can't imagine Prune Face always looked like a prune.
I guess.
Flat Top may have grown into his head slightly.
My friend Hook lost his hand. They gave him a hook. That was his name already, so it made a lot of sense. I forget how he gets out of this, because my next note is that Dick throws a drop kick. He gets rescued by Liz, right?
They have an ensuing struggle.
Yeah.
It's the radio transmitter.
Oh, right. Explain this part.
He switches out the tapes that feed into Cerebro or whatever.
Yeah.
And the frequency overloads Mr. Memory, but really it's just highly unpleasant to listen to. And the frequency is magnified.
Right.
And it hurt.
Yeah. So he falls to the ground and cause now he can't take it. It's basically what happens to the Riddler in Batman Forever.
Yes.
In the ensuing chaos, though, Dick Tracy does get shot.
Yes.
He takes a bullet, and we then cut to them back at the chief's office. And Mr. Memory is being committed to an asylum.
Yep.
Where have I heard that before? Where they capture a bad guy that should go away forever, but instead of sending them to jail, they send them to an asylum. What's another show that does that?
A Batman.
Batman, yes. What do you know? They put him in the asylum so he can eventually come back in a future episode. And they do this weird thing where they tell Dick Tracy he's earned a week's vacation, but he just walks out of the room. So I thought they were trying to establish that Dick Tracy doesn't take breaks. He doesn't want to be rewarded with a vacation because that'll stop him from being Dick Tracy.
Yeah.
But then they make some sort of comment about he can't hear you. He's got something wrong with his ears.
Yeah.
But then Dick Tracy comes back
and
he
can't hear you because of the radio frequency messing with his hearing too.
Right. But then he comes back and is like, I'll take that week's vacation in August when it's too hot. And then they all laugh.
Yeah.
And that's That's the show.
Yeah, I mean, it clearly wants to be Get Smart. It clearly wants to be Batman.
Yes.
Because Get Smart has been running for a couple of seasons at this point.
Yeah, and we're 2 years into Batman?
Yes.
It ends with credits, and then there's like a weird cutaway at the end where it's like, next week, Dick Tracy faces public enemy number 1. And then the 20th Century Fox logo shows up.
Next week, in the plot to destroy a metropolis, Dick Tracy encounters global enemy number 1.
And I was like, are they public enemy number 1? Are we supposed to be anti-20th Century Fox? So that's the show. It was very
same,
Batman.
It was the same producer as the Batman TV series. It was clearly trying to extend that empire and capitalize on the comic book hero trend.
Where is this in conjunction to the Green Hornet? Because if my memory serves, they introduced the Green Hornet and Kato in Batman in the attempt to spin him off to another show, which I believe they do.
Green Hornet is already airing when this tries to go up.
Oh, okay. Because I feel like this is very Green Hornet-esque.
Yeah, Green Hornet, 1 season.
Ooh, good to know.
26 episodes.
But yeah, I was about to say, I bet it's a bunch of episodes.
But yes, Green Hornet starts airing in the 1966 season.
Okay.
Same as Batman, actually, interestingly enough.
Wait, they were running at the same time? Oh,
Yes.
so it was a crossover episode when that wasn't a backdoor pilot like I thought.
But we might both be right because Batman starts in January 1966.
Oh, okay.
And Green Hornet does not air until September 1966. Green Hornet is a normal season run, and Batman starts as a mid-season replacement.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So, there's a couple failings in this show I need to talk about.
Yes.
What do you think of when you think about Dick Tracy?
I mean, I'm of a certain age, so I think of the 1990 film with Warren Beatty, which, interestingly enough, also was capitalizing on the success of a Batman released the prior year.
Oh, really?
What year was Batman released with Michael Keaton?
Batman 89, right?
Yep. What year was Dick Tracy released, the film?
1990.
Yeah. I thought that was...
That is fascinating.
Yeah, that was a note I had early on where I was like, isn't this the year after? Huh.
I did recently rewatch the 1990 Dick Tracy.
Yes.
Which was, as a child, a movie that, like, I remember renting and watching over and over and over again. Like, during that brief window that we had the movie. I just, like, we didn't rent it multiple times, but we rented it and I watched it, like, 4 times. And then I watched it recently and I didn't remember anything about it. I was like, oh my god, Dustin Hoffman's in this movie.
I was legitimately kind of, like, creeped out by it as a kid.
Yeah, it's very uncanny. Like, it's one of those movies where I don't think you could ever do, like, a high-definition re-release because it would just look gross.
Yeah.
Because they tried to make it look like the comic books, and they do a great job of making it look like the comic in that, like, part of the set is just kind of painted, like, almost like Roger Rabbit-esque, where it looks very cartoon. A lot of the shots look like comic cells. And they put gobs and gobs of makeup on everybody.
Yeah, Al Pacino is Big Boy.
Yes. Dustin Hoffman is Mumbles.
Bananas.
Andy Patinkin's in it. I don't know which character he was, but I saw his name in the credits when I watched it. Mandy Patinkin, excuse me.
Yeah, I was about to say, we respect Mandy Patinkin in this house.
But it's very interesting in that the 1990 movie is very propaganda.
Yeah.
This is like the peak of the biggest enemy of the police is being forced to work in the rules.
Mandy Patinkin, in unsurprising news, played 88 Keys.
Yes. There is like not a moment goes by in this film where Dick Tracy isn't doing something where other police officers aren't yelling, "You can't be doing this. You need a warrant."
Yeah.
Like, if this doesn't go right, this is going to be your badge, Tracy. So this idea, like, in, like, NYPD Blue and, like, Dirty Harry of, like, the real enemy of the police is the rule book. It's one of those. Which I'm really glad we didn't see here in the Dick Tracy 60s pilot.
No, he works with the chief. He works with Liz.
He's just a good cop.
Yeah.
But getting back to my original point, if you walked up to a person and just said, "Tell me 3 things about Dick Tracy," what's the first thing they would probably say? Yellow.
Yes.
Why does Dick Tracy not wear yellow in this? Like, the whole time he's just in, like, a normal suit, and, like, it was a really good contrast in, like, all the other Dick Tracy properties, in that the police usually wear blue. So he would stand out amongst the police because he wore yellow.
I mean, I wonder if it was an attempt, like, you know how in the 2000 X-Men, they do not wear the brightly colored? I wonder if it was an attempt to ground it in reality.
Perhaps. But, like, it's such a, like, it's what makes Dick Tracy Dick Tracy, is that he wears yellow. Like, the Dick Tracy, like, symbol is just, like, his yellow hat, you don't see his face, and his yellow coat. Like, what a weird choice to take that away from him.
I mean, I genuinely think they're trying to ground the show somewhat in reality. Just because that's why all of the more cartoonish Rose Gallery are already dispensed of. Although they did do a makeup test for Prune Face.
Oh.
With Lon Chaney Jr.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they do mention, like, Prune Face and Mumbles and Flat Top, so I'd imagine they would be showing up if this show had continued. The other thing I think people would say is, like, tell me something about Dick Tracy, would be communicator watch. Dick Tracy has a watch where the police can reach out to him and be like, "Tracy, there's a problem."
Which does appear in the opening credits.
It appears in the cartoon opening credits and not in the show.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. My guess is because of the whole chemistry thing, they didn't want to give him a gadget.
I don't think it's because of the whole chemistry thing. I don't think they wanted him to be Maxwell Smart or Batman.
Perhaps that as well, but, like, it's so strange to set that up in the opening credits and have no moment where he talks into his wrist.
Yeah.
Because it's the 60s. It's before we had cell phones. The idea of having a communicator on your person was magic.
Yeah.
I mean, Maxwell Smart had it in his shoe. He had the shoe phone. But, like, the idea of, like, a watch, like, it was still cool in the 90s when the Power Rangers were doing it.
Yeah.
So, like, it's a very iconic thing about Dick Tracy that's very strange that they took away from him.
I know it was a very common bit when the Apple Watch came out to have your text noise be...
Oh, yeah. I remember those days. That being said, I just need to ask this question. Mm-hmm. And this will be our required answer in the comments without doing any research. Dick Tracy. Is his name Richard Tracy? Or is he Detective Tracy? Answer now in the comments. Laura's going to do research in a second. But
I didn't realize I had to do the research. You're just looking at me and I'm like,
I thought you were touching the thing. But I was, after watching this, we watched this pilot twice, and I was halfway through the movie where I was like, is his name Richard? Is he Rich Tracy, or is he Detective Tracy and his first name's like Ed?
Based on some light research, Dick Tracy's given name is Dick.
Okay.
Because Tess calls him that.
Detective Dick Tracy.
Yes.
Got it. All right. That was bothering me.
bothering Noah for all this time. Can't ask me before the show.
No. In any case, is there anything else you want to share about this show before we give it a verdict?
Nope.
All right, then.
I said all my bits.
What are you saying?
I would say it's a stay doomed.
Really?
Yeah, I actually had what if Get Smart, but less fun and lamer.
Okay.
So, yeah.
This is a big stay tuned for me.
Okay.
I loved this. Like, I thought it mixed comedy with action very well. I thought the chemistry gimmicks were, like, interesting and new and something I hadn't seen. I think it would have, despite being a ripoff of Batman, I think you could have aired them together and just been like, it's the crime block.
Yeah.
I think an eventual Dick Tracy Batman crossover would be fun. I think this was a lot of fun, and I think there was a lot of potential shown in this. Because you're going to do different things with Dick Tracy than you would do with Batman, because you're going to do chemistry and you're going to do police work, while Batman didn't do as much detective work. I mean, he was still beating the Riddler by solving riddles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's the greatest detective.
Yeah. I'm just saying that the great detective part of Batman was not emphasized as much in 60s Batman.
Yeah.
As much as,
Gadgets
and bat shark repellent and things like that. Also, the fact that this was like a concise half hour.
Yeah.
And Batman was always a 2-part thing. Was it 2-part 2 hours or?
No, they would be half hours in the same week.
Okay, same bat time, same bat channel. I think it offered enough. So I would give this stay tuned. I wish there were more episodes of this, because I thought this was a lot of fun.
Cool. I wanted to watch Get Smart. After I
did watch Get Smart afterwards.
I was like, man, I really just want to watch Get Smart, a better show. I want to watch a better version of this. I'm going to go watch Get Smart now.
Yeah, it's not better than Get Smart.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it for us here at Stay Doomed Studios. Next week, we've been playing around with the idea of just doing a special episode about the 90s. The Discord has been chatting about the most ridiculous elements of the 90s recently. So we might do that, or we might do a show.
We haven't decided yet.
We haven't decided yet. We're playing fast and loose here in Stay Doomed Studios. But if you want to join our Discord, which you just got a notification for, you can find a link in the comments down below. Where can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at Stay Doomed.
And if you just watched the Dick Tracy 1990 film and want to talk about it, because I just did and I do, I'm at +2 Comedy on Twitter and at TV's Noah on Instagram.
If you want to talk about how that movie didn't do very well at the box office and how upset Disney was because they sunk a lot of money into cross-promotion, I'm at Priorities on Twitter or X, I don't care, and Glitter and Glow Tape on Instagram. Until next time, stay doomed.